All right. Cat and Mouse was a comic book that I did with Mitch Bird and Roland Mann many, many years ago, back when we were in college at the University of Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg. Mitch and I came up with it. Well, actually, it was Mitch that came up with the concept. I remember approaching Mitch. This is like right after I'd first met him, and I saw somebody, another friend of ours had said, "Have you met Mitch Bird? He draws like you." I said, "He draws like me." He said, "Well, he kind of draws like you. You're more into superheroes. He's more into like stuff that you would find in Heavy Metal magazine." And so I said, "Okay, I got to meet this guy." And so whenever I went, we were rooming in the same building. And so I just found his room, knocked on his door, and told him who I was. And he remembered me because we had seen each other in we had a life drawing class together. And I said that I was told that that you were into comics and stuff. He said, "Well, I'm not so much into comics, but I like to draw." And he showed me some of his stuff, and then my jaw hit the floor, and I said, "Okay, we probably need to team up on something," because I showed him some of my stuff, and we found that we were different styles, but I said I think we could mesh together. And back then he was working mostly in pencil, and he gave me some of his pieces to ink, and then I inked them, and then we just started coming up with concepts. Cat and Mouse was one of them, and it was basically two cat burglars the story was set in New Orleans, and that was pretty much it. Mitch came up with I think it was like a 4-page, like a tryout thing that we were going to be sending to different independent companies, and we did, and we got rejection letters, but they were good rejection letters. I mean, they were very helpful. They were basically telling us what we need to work on, and please submit again, that type of thing. So they were very, it was very helpful. This was before we met Roland. But when we did meet Roland, things kind of kicked into high gear, because Cat and Mouse was not the only idea that we had kicking, Mitch and I. But Roland saw Cat and Mouse and said, "Ooh, this is something that I think I could really, it would be fun to write." And so that's how this whole thing got started. We mailed it out to a lot of different companies and didn't get any bites, but this EFG Graphics was a guy named John Drury that we knew from New York, who liked our stuff and said, "I want to give it a shot and have it printed." So I don't know how much of the book that we had done at that time. We may have finished the entire thing whenever he saw it. I can't remember, but I know we did everything on this from cover to cover. Was ours, and this was like an ad that we had created. I remember doing this at USM, and just created the Silverline logo here, which Silverline was basically just us, just me, Mitch, and Roland, and we were a packager of comic ideas, and Cat and Mouse was our first one. I remember I did the logo for it, and did all of that at USM as well. And so this was it was a learning experience. We were literally getting on the job training while we were doing this. Mitch penciled it, Roland wrote it, and I inked it and lettered it. And there was a girl named Stephanie from USM that colored it. And so we all just teamed up and did this, and it was printed. You can see it's on newsprint, and it was printed in Mississippi as well. All of us were from Mississippi, so it was. I was surprised to find out that our New York publisher found a printer in Mississippi. I think it was in Wayne County News. I think it was like a newspaper press, like a web press that this was printed on. And I can't remember how many copies that were printed. But you can see Mitch's storytelling in action right here. He never liked superheroes at all, but he was really good at drawing the action, and he understood how to tell a story from the start. Now, at the time, I was penciling another book called Silverstorm at the time that this was going on. So I was like inking this and penciling Silverstorm, and this was consuming all of our free time. Not that we had a whole lot. I think we were all working at the time. I think Mitch might have still been going to college at the time, but I know I was already out, and I was working. Well, maybe not. I don't know. These first few pages, I might have still been going. It was my last semester. I know that much. So so anyway, we got all these. Mitch and his automatopoeia. It started here. We got whip here, bam, wham, pow. We were just having a lot of fun with it. And I remember Mitch was drawing with a blue pencil back in these days, and I remember the brush that I was using. I was inking it with a like a, I can't remember the name of it. It wasn't a nylon brush. It was a sable brush. What are they called? I cannot remember. Was it a Winsor Newton? I think it was a Winsor Newton brush, Series 7 or something like that. And black India ink, Higgins, I think, at the time. I don't ever use any of that stuff anymore because it lost its it was good back then, but I remember the ink getting more diluted as the years went by, and I found that brush pens and other things can do the same kind of give me the same kind of a effect in my inking as the brush and ink did back then, so I stopped using it. But Mitch was really easy to ink. I didn't really do a whole lot of embellishment on it. Maybe some of the backgrounds I did, because I remember he was inking with the blue pencil, and some of the backgrounds kind of got lost. There wasn't a whole lot of detail in there, so I added it not to every panel, but yeah, I did add it to some. Mitch was also a master of silhouettes, even though this kind of get the figure of cat. The cat is the male, and the mouse is the female. This is mouse here, the female figure. And sometimes, like, the black against black kind of gets lost, but it's still, this is good because it's framing these the heads here. But yeah, he knew how to break it up and give, and show locations, show establishing shots. And this is taking me back a long ways. Some of this stuff I remember like it was just the other day, and some of it I don't have any recollection of. But yeah, this is what we were doing, and this was back in 1988 that we did this. We might have even started it in 87, but that's when this came out. And so this is actually the first printing. It wound up getting printed at Malibu Graphics under their Aircel imprint, but that was another 20, that was back in 91 maybe, that it was printed. 90, I can't remember, but it was a few years after this that and that was in black and white. The color was gone by that time. And then this is a story. This is our words, basically talking about how we all got started. So Roland had this write up, and then I had this write up, and then Mitch always, he was never one for talking about his work a lot, and he was very quick and to the point when he did. And so he always had this saying that said, "Well, that'll work." And so we put that in there as what he would say, because that's exactly what he said. Now these are drawings that we did. Mitch penciled and inked this back then. I think he was using all pen for this, a dip pen, I think, for all of this. And then this is one that I inked over him as well. This says here, it says, the following Cat and Mouse story takes place prior to Cat and Mouse #1. It was originally done as a special story for a preview book to lead into Cat and Mouse #1. The book never saw print, and we decided to go ahead and give it to you here in black and white. That is true, but it's also, we did this after we did this story. So it's a preview of what the events in this lead directly into this, but we did this after we did this. I hope that makes sense. Because I was using whatever pen Mitch was using here, I was using the same type of pen here whenever I was inking this. And I think this was the only one that I lettered. I may have lettered the second issue, but we got another letterer to come in, because by that time I was already penciling that other book, and I just didn't have the time to do it. I was thinking that this is Zipatone, but it's not. This was all just line work that was put in by hand. That's Zipatone back there, which is Zipatone is just a sheet of designs. It's got dot. Most of the ones that we used have a series of dots on there to make up a design, to give it a gray area, and we'd have to it was on this clear sticky a sheet that you put down, and then you had to cut it out with an X-Acto knife to get that effect. And I used it here as well on this and this. I still have a bunch of that. I don't now, if you wanted to do something like that, you just I think like Clip Studio Paint, I know that's what we use whenever we work digitally. They have their own, you can get your own Zipatone out of there, because manga uses that a lot. This was Silverline. It says it's almost 1990. Do you know where your heroes are? This is Silverline, which is all of the characters that we were going to use. Some of these got used. This is the characters from Silverstorm, and then Cat and Mouse, and then these characters were from. All of these characters here were from Cat and Mouse. These guys were going to be used, but the book never came out, I don't think, and I cannot remember the names of these characters. Proton, I want to say, is one of them's name, but I can't remember the others. That was a long time ago, guys. And then this was Silverstorm, which we were working on, coinciding with this. This is the other thing that was published by EF Graphics. This is Jazz Age Chronicles by Ted Slampiak, and I think he continued it on through another publisher, because EFG didn't last very long. I don't know if it was money problems or they just didn't sell. They didn't sell enough, but this was the only issue of Cat and Mouse that came out through EF Graphics. And so this was the cover for the next issue. And I can't remember if we used, whenever we went to Malibu, like, this was not the cover for Cat and Mouse. They used the Paul Gulacy cover for the first issue. And I think the first issue was a double. I think it printed 1 and 2 together. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. So I don't know if this cover was ever even used or not. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's ancient. That's ancient history. But I do remember doing this. All right, that's Cat and Mouse. That was back when we were all young and hungry, first getting into this business. Flash forward a couple of years, and I was working at Marvel. Had been at Marvel for several years by this time. This is 1993. All right. This was Silver Sable and the Wild Pack. It was my first ongoing series that I did at Marvel. Meanwhile, Mitch was over at DC Comics working on some Green Lantern comics. Green Lantern Mosaic, I think, was one of the ones. He also worked on a book called Dark Stars, which was kind of another type of, it was kind of like Green Lantern. They were still like outer space cops or whatever. I can't remember. Travis Charest was working on that at the time, but I know Mitch did at least a couple of issues of that as well. But anyway, while he was doing that, I was over at Marvel doing Silver Sable and the Wild Pack. And this was like a crossover thing with Silver Sable and Luke Cage and something else. Terror Incorporated. That was it. This guy, this was the follow. This guy right here is the Terror Incorporated guy. And that's what Luke Cage looked like back in the 90s whenever they rebooted him. But anyway, this was a comic that Gregory Wright was my writer. And then Jimmy Palmiotti was the inker. Joe Rosas was the colorist. Steve Dutro was the letterer. Craig Anderson was my editor on Silver Sable, and Tom DeFalco was our editor-in-chief. Craig Anderson was a great editor. Had a blast working for him. His dad's name was Brad Anderson, and he was a cartoonist, a pretty famous cartoonist. He was the guy who created Marmaduke in the comic strips, and so Craig was his son. Worked at Marvel. I don't know what he's doing now. But I know he got let go during 1996, I guess it was, whenever so many of the editors were let go from Marvel, and I don't know what he got into after that, because our paths diverged from there. But this was an issue that I was working on, and I remember having a tight deadline on it, and I needed I wasn't going to make my deadline. I'll just go ahead and admit it. I was working as hard as I could, but I just wasn't going to be able to make it. But I had done these pages here, and it was a lot of fun, but it was, you're working at breakneck speed to get as much of this done. And so I reached out to Mitch and asked him if he would, be willing to help me work on these pages. And he said, "Sure. I think I can give you a day of my time or whatever." And you can start seeing his work right here. This is page 13, and you can start seeing his work here. Now, I did all the layouts for all of this and gave him like a really light, pencil for all of this stuff. But he took it like this is his this is a Mitch Byrd panel here. This is a Mitch Byrd panel here. And this one, I can see touches of Mitch. Some of this is me, and some of this is Mitch. Like that boat is Mitch. This dock and this guy here is all Mitch. But I think these are my figures here. And this is mine down here. And that one's mine here. This one is mostly me, but I think Mitch did the lion in the background. So you can tell we were alternating on each one of these pages, and I would just be giving Mitch just different things to do. I think this one's all mine here, but here this is Mitch's panel here. I did this, Mitch did this, and Mitch did this one, and this one, and then I did this one. Well, that's wild. I haven't looked at this in years. Now this one right here, you can look, and you astute viewers who know Mitch Byrd's artwork can tell this is a Mitch Byrd page. Again, I did the layouts for him, but he took it over, and it is unmistakably a Mitch Byrd page. Look at those eyes. That's definitely Mitch Byrd there. So yeah, he was doing. This was all done in one night. All of these pages that we were working on, and it was literally an all night affair. These sharks, I think, are Mitch's, and this shark here outside of the net was Mitch. So my hat's off to him. I'm sure I try, and I know I helped him out on several projects afterwards, but this one seemed to be like the big one, as far as him helping me out. And then this is a backup story, because in each issue of Silver Sable they had like an early tales of Silver Sable, and I didn't draw these. This was done by Nelson Ortega, who was an artist on Sonic the Hedgehog before I was. So it was really weird that this guy here, this guy Nelson Ortega was drawing the backup feature in Silver Sable, and just a few years later he was drawing Sonic the Hedgehog for Archie, and then I would be following his run after that. So everything is connected. But anyway, that's about it. I just wanted to show you this work that I did with Mitch, and this one as well, that got us into the business. And we had a celebration of life for Mitch just on this past Saturday, and a lot of his friends, a lot of his comic book friends, pro and fan, showed up. to just give him respect. I met his family. I met his two brothers, and they were just great. His family is just great people, and we're all going to miss him. He made an indelible impact on the business, on comics, but you would never know it to talk to him, if because he never. He was a very humble guy. Didn't maybe humble's not the right word. I don't know. He just didn't. He just wasn't that interested in he loved to draw, and we found there's a ton of his artwork that has went unpublished, and we're talking about the possibility of doing something with it. But that's just in the talking stages right now. But it's work that just will blow your mind. Mitch has always blown my mind. From the very first time I saw his artwork, I have been in awe of his work. We have always had a healthy relationship. We never really were in direct competition with each other, because we were working on completely separate, for separate companies, and we never, really crossed over into working on the same projects or anything. After this, of course, this was our gateway into the business. Then we diverged. But I've always looked at his work and I'm like, man, he's on another level. I'm just not. I can't touch that, but I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to do my own thing, and find my own lane and stay in it. And his like I said, his work was on a completely different level. And if you've ever seen his work, well, chime in. Let me know what you think about his work. I've never known anybody to ever say, oh yeah, Mitch Byrd, he's kind of okay. No, you see his work and you're going to say, holy smoke, this guy is, how come he's not better known? And I've said this before and I'll say it again. If sheer talent and imagination were the keys to success in this business alone, then Mitch Byrd would be a household name and everybody would know him, because he's that good. He is so much better in my mind than a lot of the guys who are, in the top echelons. And that's why it's hard for me to get really, or be in awe of a whole lot of other people, just because one of my best friends that I've ever known is at the very tip top and always will be in my mind. Anyway, I've waxed eloquent about Mitch Byrd, and I am going to miss him in my life as a brother, as a guy that's been in the trenches with me all these years, and who left us too soon. He still had so much that he could have given, but it just didn't work out that way. So anyway, Mitch, Godspeed to you, brother. I miss you, and I know I'll see you again one day. And I know you're painting dinosaurs up in heaven. So drive on, brother. We'll talk to you later. Thank you for watching my video. I appreciate it. I hope you got something out of it. Let me know your thoughts if you will, and be on the lookout for a new video coming up soon. Talk to you later. Take care. Bye.